Hey there, Manic Mercurian here, and this will be a personalized year forecast I'm doing this by request, and this is for someone who was born on Monday, January 18th, 1993 at 11:35 p.m. in Redwood City, California, and let's just take a brief look at the birth chart before we get into looking at the actual year forecast. So, this person has a sun in Capricorn, moon in Sagittarius with Libra rising. And so I, of course, took into account, pretty much all the main placements, all the planets, the rising, the IC, the descendant, the midheaven, etc. Um, all of it, I, of course, took into account. But the main areas, that are of a special focus in this chart are, of course, 16 degrees Libra. That's where the ascendant is. But then I think probably the biggest area is, at the bottom where this big cluster is. There's so much activity going on in Capricorn, especially, around halfway to the end of Capricorn. There's Uranus, Neptune, Mercury, the Sun, and the IC all situated there. So that is by far the most important place. So, whenever transiting planets aspect, these points in mid to late Capricorn, that would be the most impacting for this person for sure. So that's definitely an area I took special notice of. But there's also, Mars and the midheaven are in Cancer, and then Moon is right on the nodal axis. Moon was conjunct the North Node in Sagittarius here in this chart. So those are just some main points. There's also Venus, around halfway through Pisces. So those are some main points that I took special note of when doing this forecast or preparing for this forecast. Okay, now before I get into the specifics, we will go day by day, and I have a lot to tell you. There's a lot of aspects. There's a lot going on, of course, within a year. But before I get into the specifics, I wanted to just provide some of the context for this year as a whole, just to kind of paint the picture, paint the backdrop. Um, I think this is a very interesting time for you, of course. There's a lot going on. So you're just leaving a time where Neptune was squaring your moon. Okay, so you have your natal moon at 19 degrees Sagittarius and transiting Saturn, on the 1st of January 2022 is at 20 degrees Pisces, so it's just sort of left that square to your moon. So this is something you would have experienced over the last couple years, 2018, 2019, 2020. You experienced the Neptune squaring your moon, and then we're finally done with that. So you may still be feeling this now, in January of 2022, but Neptune will be moving on. It will not go back to the same position where it will square your moon. So over the last couple years, fading away now, you may have experienced a lot of confusion and restlessness and anxiety, especially on a deep fundamental level, on an emotional level. Neptune is squaring your moon. Your moon represents your emotional core. And Neptune is confusing and ambiguous. And with the square aspect, it's sort of stressful. There's a lot of angst or anxiety there, a lot of activity though as well. So the the negative side would be it would be very confusing, emotionally destabilizing for you, and it would even be sort of dissolving your core identity in on some level. But the silver lining here is that this would it may make you weaker in the meantime, but eventually it would make you stronger. Um, and it would it would prompt you to change. It would prompt you to evolve on a deep emotional level. So that's just something that you may have experienced, and it would be especially very challenging over these last couple of years. But again, that's fading away now as we get into this year. There's a few other themes going on. So one major theme happening is that let's go to this chart actually. Uh, One major theme is that you are in the midst of your first Saturn return. So I'm not sure how much you know about that type of thing, but I'll just kind of go over it briefly. It's common when we get into our late 20s, 28, 29, 30, that many people will experience a crisis or some kind of event that is basically meant to have us mature. Astrologers, as well as some other people, believe that you're not really an adult until you reach the age of 30 or somewhere right around there, and that's largely because of the Saturn return. It requires us to evolve and mature, basically, to accept more responsibility in a way we haven't before. And that is, of course, challenging, and it can manifest itself as a situation that might be unwanted. It might be stressful or depressing. We can experience loss in our late 20s or times of, stress because there's increased responsibility. We typically have to do something completely alone. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have friends or family around, but it just means that whatever this thing is that you're taking on at this time in your life, you have to do it alone. Only you can do it, and you can't really get help from anyone. It's very independent. So you're gaining responsibility, maturity. You're gaining this self-sufficiency in this area. For you, your Saturn is in Aquarius, so this could have to do with your communication, your association with groups, affiliation with different types of people or groups. It could have to do with a lot of things, but I think it has to do something. It's definitely social though. Aquarius is a social sign. It's of the air element. It's common for people who are born with Saturn in Aquarius to be afraid of groups of people or afraid of being seen, afraid of being seen for our uniqueness, for instance. So these are some of the themes that you might be grappling with, and the Saturn return that I'm describing, this does take around 2.5 years to go through completely, and especially your Saturn is, yes, I thought it was around 18 degrees Aquarius. So your Saturn is a little bit close to the middle, so you'd really feel that Saturn return the entire time Saturn is in Aquarius. And so you're in the midst of this experience now. And transiting Saturn will actually make the exact conjunction to your natal Saturn twice this year. Once in February 28th, and then again a second time October 22nd, because Saturn will retrograde. Um, so that is definitely pivotal. So this would describe increased stress, increased challenges, increased restriction, but also increased responsibility. It's pushing you to grow more and to mature more. But this would kind of come to a head and reach a turning point this year because of those exact conjunctions. However, it's interesting because at the same time, Jupiter really has a lot of energy for this year as well because let's see, especially so Jupiter has crossed over your natal. Um, this cluster of planets in Capricorn, Jupiter has crossed over those the past couple of years. So it's interesting. I think just the past 2 to 3 years, you would have experienced a lot of growth, a lot of I don't know, growth, expansion, a lot of additions, new things happening. So you're in this interesting time where I think there's a lot of added challenges, a lot of added weight pushing you down, stress, but also there's a lot of expansion as well. So, really it's a lot of both of these kind of two different energies coming into play here. The stress, the added weight, the added responsibility. But at the same time, I think this has been really good for you. I think it's been very constructive. So you're kind of thriving in a way. You're meeting those challenges. So it's interesting because on the one hand, it's like yes, this time is very challenging for you, but on the other hand, it's very expansive as well. So I wouldn't describe it as like a bad time in any way. I think you're definitely rising up to meet those challenges. And again, that's just kind of a general backdrop to this. Also, Pluto is doing something interesting. So, transiting Pluto will conjoin your natal Mercury 3 times this year: January 15th, September 2nd, and November 12th, all of 2022. And this is a big deal. Transiting Pluto is very slow. It's the slowest planet that we're aware of in our solar system. So, having it conjoin such a personal planet, Mercury rules our mind, our intellect, our communication, how we think, our beliefs to some extent. So Pluto very slowly crossing over your natal Mercury this year, and not only that, but making that exact conjunction 3 times it is very big. So this indicates a huge, Pluto is a little bit like Saturn. It is kind of heavy. It's a heavy weight, and it's asking you to evolve, which is good, of course, but it's not always fun. It can be stressful and difficult, when we're in the midst of it. And Pluto can be very dark as well. Pluto is a little bit more emotionally intense than Saturn, I would say, generally speaking. So Pluto crossing over your Saturn is asking you, or maybe even forcing you, to relook at your beliefs, and not only your beliefs but how you go about thinking, like the way you analyze, the way you think, the way you communicate. All of that will be challenged in a very heavy way. I won't sugarcoat it. It's definitely all that's being challenged in a very heavy way this year. And what Pluto is asking you to do is completely change your intellect and your communication, your even like your speech or your thought patterns. um, like you may almost experience like a death of these things, like or it could also be like a huge reconfiguration of your beliefs. So you may be challenged and realize that some of the things you believed in were not of integrity, or they were not, accurate. You may be replacing old beliefs for new, better beliefs. So this is challenging. It is very heavy, and it can feel dark for sure at times. But, the light at the end of the tunnel is that Pluto is destructive, but it only destroys what is not of integrity. So it's destroying those thought patterns or those beliefs that are not of integrity. And you know, it's almost like a phoenix, or it's like a fire. So it's like burning, clearing away things, but then what it leaves behind is, very fertile for new growth. And so that will, it may feel like it's weakening your mental capacities in the midst of it, because those are being challenged. But at the end of it, you'll find that you've actually become a lot stronger in those areas. At least that's one potential that I see. So that's why I say, really, this is kind of a pivotal year for you. There's been a lot changing, I think, and I think you are changing a lot. I think you're growing a lot and really asserting your kind of independence. And this is just one part of that. Also, it doesn't really end there, because you have your sun at 29 degrees Capricorn, just a few degrees after your Mercury. So Pluto is, kind of straddling your Mercury this year, making those three different conjunctions throughout the entire year. But after that, it will move forward, and then over the next, well, over the next few years, Pluto will approach your sun and then pass over that. So that will be an upcoming challenge as well. It will be very personal. You'll have those same challenges and weights applied to your ego and your self-expression. Um, and that is a very difficult aspect. It's one of the most difficult, I would say, Pluto crossing such a intimate personal planet. But it's also very rewarding, once you do make it through, and it is a very long aspect as well. It's something that you'll experience kind of in the background mostly over the next few years. But again, it is very challenging, but it's also that much more rewarding once you make it to the other side. You'll become that much stronger and more powerful, basically, because you'll have more power within yourself. That's what Pluto kind of teaches us. So that's a really big theme happening here. Let's see. Okay, a couple more things. So you are having your Saturn return, but the way your chart is set up, the way your chart is set up is interesting, because as you experience your Saturn return, transiting Saturn will trine your ascendant. A different way of looking at this is, you can see here in your natal chart, you have your Saturn at 18 degrees Aquarius, your ascendant is at 16 degrees Libra. So as transiting Saturn passes over your natal Saturn, it will conjoin your natal Saturn, but it will also make a trine aspect to your ascendant. Trines are very easy. They're very rewarding, very easy, very like happy energies, where you just kind of feel stable. It's almost like lazy. I've heard an astrologer call them lazy aspects, because you can kind of just relax because things are easier. So that's a nice aspect to have. It's nice that your chart is set up that way. So even though you are experiencing this time of challenges and weight, I think it's something that you thrive with. Not only does your natal Saturn trine your ascendant, but you also have this cluster of planets in Capricorn that I was mentioning, which are all ruled by Saturn. So I think you actually thrive with this added pressure. It may be difficult at times, but you're not only rising up to the challenge, but you're really flourishing with this. I think this is excellent for you. So, it's this interesting mix of challenges, but also, I don't know, these challenges are almost like blessings. Like they are allowing you to really develop your life and actually get a lot more enjoyment out of life. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic here that I don't always see in astrology, but it's, I think, really prevalent for you. Excuse me. Okay, two last things before we get into the actual forecast. Let me get a cough drop because I've been talking all day. Okay, you also have transiting Chiron approaching your descendant uh, around, the middle of Aries. So you can see here, uh, transiting Chiron is at 8 degrees Aries. So it's in your sixth house. It's slowly making its way to your descendant. It will not get there this year, but that is coming up in the future. So not so much this year, but a couple years ahead, 2023, 2024, you may encounter, you may meet people who are very strange, who, I don't know, like teach you lessons or heal wounds from your past that you may not have even been aware that you were like carrying. Um, yeah, so you may attract people that end up being kind of healing, but Chiron is an awkward planet. It's an awkward energy. So these people that you would be drawn to over the next few years may be like strange in their mannerisms. They may be unusual, but they teach you something. So that's sort of an unusual placement, but I do see that as well. And then last thing I wanted to say before I get into the forecast is that I have there's many more aspects that I will talk about at the beginning of the year than the end. I didn't want you to think that I, slacked off toward the end of the year because I didn't. It's just that you have so many planets in Capricorn here, so that's a big part of it. But there's generally a lot more activity on an astrological level for the first months of this year, January, February, March, etc. So the way I would see that is it doesn't always necessarily mean that there's more activity in your life at this time. It just means that there's more like life changes. Like you don't necessarily have to be really busy each and every day to have a lot of life changes going on, if that makes sense. So it just means there's a lot shifting. There's a lot developing. There's a lot of like if your life is like a story, there's a lot happening in regard to the plot, especially early on, and especially the months of, I'd say, August, September. These are the least active astrologically for you. So that's a blessing. I think you can almost have kind of a break at that time. But we'll talk more about that specifically once we get there. Okay, so I'm starting off here around noon Eastern Standard Time, January 1st, 2022. You requested a reading for the year, so I figured I'd cover January to the end of the year. And there's actually just one aspect in early 2023 that I'll talk about at the very end. Okay, without further ado, first aspect on January 1st, we have Mercury at 29 degrees Capricorn, and it's conjoining your natal sun. So, and I know this date has already passed by the time you'll see this, but that is significant. So January 1st, you may be very busy, especially on a mental level. So you may be, there's a lot of like frenetic or scattered energy. So you may be, busy with like errands or just talking to many different kinds of different people, doing many different tasks and different things happening. Maybe learning a lot, speaking a lot, writing. Mercury rules all these things, so Mercury crossing over your sun would indicate the potential for increased, intellectual, mental activity, increased busyness. Okay. Next on January 2nd, we have the new moon at 12 degrees Capricorn. And this is right near your stellium. So it doesn't, excuse me, it doesn't exactly aspect this cluster of planets here in Capricorn. It does, though, oppose your natal Mars. So this new moon here I know this is a little bit flipped, but your Mars is actually down here in Cancer, so it's exactly opposing this new moon. And this new moon is happening in your third house right before your IC, so that could show the potential for increased social activity as well. So that's interesting. It continues the theme from the first. Maybe meeting new people that you haven't before, or the beginning of new friendships, new dynamics with your neighbors, or people that you run into on a kind of daily basis. So like people in your neighborhood type of thing. Increase. There's an indication for an increase in those type of interactions. And opposing your Mars shows that. So this new moon could almost make you feel kind of subdued, like your fire, your passion is a little bit subdued by this aspect. So I think the focus is more on other people today on January 2nd. It's not so much on your own personal desires. So you may feel kind of like unfulfilled, or like your fire is put out because the way the day goes is that you have to kind of tend to other people's needs or interact with other people, focus more on those interactions, focus on maybe errands more rather than what you want to do yourself. And so that's nothing super major, um, but I will cover each and every new moon and full moon of this year, but this one is not so big. I think the biggest part of this is that it is in Capricorn, so this being sort of your sign as a Capricorn sun and with multiple planets here, it would indicate that you, like a sort of like a new beginning for you, almost a little bit like a birthday. This general time for you, is your start of the year. It's not only the start of the calendar year, but you have your birthday in January, and then with this new moon happening, it's just indicating kind of sort of a new beginning for you. Just generally speaking, a new chapter, I guess you could say. Going forward to January 8th. All right, January 8th, Venus. So this is interesting because Venus is retrograde, Venus is traveling back, or the Sun is, of course, traveling forward, and they both meet at 18 degrees Capricorn. This is especially interesting for you because you have this cluster right here. You have your Uranus and your IC at 18 degrees Capricorn, and your Neptune at 19 degrees Capricorn. So, so Venus retrograde coming to this point would indicate you're maybe having to rethink your desires, especially in your home, having to do with your home. So maybe with your living arrangements, something needs to be redone there. It could have to do with your finances in regard to your home situation. And the sun, is crossing there as well, so it's bringing the focus to this area. So there may be changes and developments that happen um, to your home life, your home situation. Could also have to do with your beliefs, with Uranus and Neptune here as well. And with Venus retrograde, it could be that you're going back. So either, I don't know, moving back somewhere or reincorporating something from a past living situation or past finances, something of that nature. I'm not sure exactly. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, going forward. Oh, actually, so this applies to January 8th and the 9th as well. And then starting on the 9th, we have Mars is at 19 degrees Sagittarius, and so it's conjoining your natal moon. So, yes, so this would indicate that you may be extra driven, extra fiery. You are a little bit fiery with your Sagittarius moon, so this will be turned on even more. Like you'll be extra um, outgoing, charismatic. All those fire traits will be kind of amped up. You could also become maybe irritable at times. It's almost like you're more kind of aggressive. Like Mars is a planet of testosterone and masculinity, sexuality, aggression, dominance. So Mars crossing over your moon, it means that your emotions they could be highly irregular on January 9th. You could, like the plus side is that you'd be extra energetic, extra outgoing, and you would know exactly what you want and how to get it. You'd want to get out there, and so this would be really good at being productive, getting some work done, or being like physically active or something like that. But then the negative side is that you could be a little bit overbearing. You could be a little bit aggressive, or feel kind of irritable, or have those like mood swings, for instance, as well. So it's kind of, this is neither bad nor good necessarily. It just kind of depends on how you use it, I guess. Just something to definitely be aware of. I don't know. It's like you almost could be kind of a little bit cautious with this aspect, but also it would be exciting too. You could definitely take advantage of this to, use that boost of energy and that extra confidence. At this time, that would be really valuable to use. And this really applies to the 10th as well. Mars is still very close to your natal moon position here. Okay, and then going forward, January 13th, Mercury stations retrograde at 10 degrees Aquarius. And now it's not conjunct your natal Saturn, but it's close enough that I think Mercury retrograde here. Um, well, I should start by saying that Mercury retrograde, this will very personally affect you over the next few weeks because Mercury will retrograde over your Sun and your Mercury, and it will then station. Well, it will it will conjoin your natal Mercury. Um, so Mercury retrograde here, I think the attention is coming to your Saturn return. So those changes that you've been making, the extra responsibility and those developments that you've been making in regard to how you relate with other people, whatever's been going on for you, I think you already know what that pertains to. Hopefully, but that theme that's been going on over the last year or two will really come to the forefront starting on January 13th as Mercury stations retrograde. You are focusing more on that area now, and with Mercury retrograde, you may be making changes in this area and going back to um, just focusing again on it. I think, how do I put this? Like your Saturn return is not consistent. It's not something that you will think about all day, every day during, the whole 2.5 year period. It's something that I think kind of waxes and wanes to some extent. So I think Mercury retrograding here brings the focus much more back to that. So you're focusing more on increasing your responsibility and your growth in these areas, being constructive. And it can feel limiting. It could have to do with restricting things. It could be you that's restricting things. So maybe you're just getting rid of the excess. Saturn, loves that. It loves for us to do that. Making sure that your connections with people are of integrity and that you're, talking to the right people, not talking to the wrong people. So whatever it is for you exactly, it can manifest in different ways, but you may focus again on, cutting out access in those areas socially, or making slow and constructive growth in these areas as well. And this theme will start January 18th, but it will continue out over the next few weeks. And there are a couple particular points that I will mention as we go along where this will kind of be brought up again and change. Okay, going to January 15th. So this is the first day of the year where transiting Pluto makes the exact conjunction to your natal Mercury. So this is what I was talking about just before, where this is very difficult. Um, this could be so it's almost, especially at the beginning of this aspect, it's almost like a destruction of your intellect in a way. Uh, but again, it's only destroying what is not of integrity. So Having those beliefs challenged, having your thought process challenged, having your communications challenged. And I think it's not a coincidence that Mercury just turned retrograde 2 days before. You're having to rethink how you approach things and, what you think about and how you think about things, what your beliefs are on things, what kind of information are you consuming. There's this extra weight there, there's this importance there, and there's a necessary transformation that needs to be made there. And it, of course, is not easy, but it's something that must be done if you are to be, you know, it, living your best life, or being a free person who is getting the most out of their own capabilities, basically. So Pluto here is totally revolutionizing things. It's transforming the way you think, basically. So that does kind of come to a head on January 15th. I would be aware of, maybe negative thoughts or pessimistic thoughts, paranoid thoughts, but this is part of the process, and I don't think it's something that you need to understand as you're going through it. I mean, this is definitely good to know about so you can be aware of it, but at the same time, I don't think it's something you'll completely understand until it's all the way over. And then you can look back and kind of understand exactly why this is happening. But January 15th is a major day for this. It's kind of transformation on a mental level for you, if that makes sense. Okay, going to January 16th, we have the Sun joins Pluto. Uh, the Sun conjoins Pluto. So both are conjunct to your natal Mercury, basically. Sun makes that conjunction to your Mercury. So the Sun brings the focus to that same theme, basically. So that you already had the exact Pluto conjunction on January 15th, but then now the Sun makes that conjunction. So I think you've already dealt with the hardest part on the 15th, but then now you're kind of coming off the other side and really understanding whatever just happened more. I'm kind of in the dark here, but I think you're kind of coming out of the dark on January 16th. You're sort of realizing what's been happening and getting a hold of things and evolving. Pluto's great for triggering us to evolve. So Sun going over this point just brings the focus here. Um, and the Sun is light, Sun is nourishing, so I think this is really excellent. It's almost like the dark. It's almost like a mini Dark Night of the Soul on January 15th on a mental level. But then, the clouds kind of break and there's daylight again, there's sunshine on January 16th, where I think you gain a lot more control over your surroundings and of yourself, and are a lot more evolved by this day. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, it's a lot of evolution between January 15th and 16th. I think you're getting a lot smarter during these days, a lot wiser, which is hard but rewarding. January 17th, there's a full moon at 27 degrees Capricorn, and the full moon is in your 10th house, at the end of Cancer. So this could indicate a lot of commotion, a lot of activity in your career, a big focus in your workplace, a culmination of sorts in your career or your job. And this full moon is opposing your natal Mercury as well. So this also, I think this has to do with whatever just unfolded over the 15th and the 16th. Um, this kind of dark theme maybe results in it connects to some kind of culmination in your workplace, some kind of new development there. But this does look positive for your job. Having a full moon in the 10th house means you're kind of shining in your workplace. You have a lot of visibility, but I think you are maybe making major progress at work, or seeing kind of the results of a major project, kind of getting. Um, Hopefully that makes sense. So, there's some kind of task like coming to fruition, basically, this culmination with this full moon here. And then going to January 18th. So the nodes actually will change signs. So this is interesting. So first of all, happy birthday. um, January 18th, you actually experience your solar return, which is sort of like an astrological birthday. It's actually very early on January 19th. But it is interesting that on the 18th, on your birthday, the nodes will change signs. So North Node will enter Taurus, leaving Gemini, and the South Node will leave Sagittarius and enter Scorpio. Now, for you, you have your nodal axis in Gemini and Sagittarius. So these past couple years that the nodes were in Gemini and Sagittarius means that you had your nodal opposition. Yes. So this means that a lot has changed over the last couple of years. You may have moved or started a new relationship or ended a relationship. Like these major life changes would have happened over the last 2 years. Now the nodes are changing signs, and so this indicates that things are becoming actually less karmic or less, I call it like plot twisty. Over the next 2 years, you have this potential to become more stable. A lot of changes were made over the last couple of years, but then now those are more or less complete on this level here, and now you can kind of carry on. Um, Another way of looking at it was like over the last couple of years, you had a huge turning point where you were maybe on the wrong track before, and then over the last couple of years you were set back on track. You're so now you're back on track, and then now you're going forward. So things have become more or less stable. There's less of a potential for major life changes now that the nodes have changed signs, and they'll be in these signs for the next 2 or so years. Going to January 19th, transiting sun conjoins your natal sun. So this is what I was talking about. This is um, the solar return, we call it, where the transiting sun conjoins your natal sun. So this, we always experience this right around our birthdays. It just indicates a new beginning. It's something we celebrate with our birthday. It's sort of a new year for you. It's almost like a rebirth in a way. So this would indicate a lot of increased strength and stamina, self-expression, increased energy. It's generally speaking, it's the sort of easiest time right after our birthdays because we're feeling, I don't know, re-energized, strengthened. Now, there have been a lot of challenging aspects that I talked about just, a week before this. So I think there have been a lot of challenging things going on. However, at the same time, you just get kind of this boost of vitality as the sun crosses over your own sun. You feel that kind of warm, energetic, nourishing energy that we all feel from the sun on this day and moving forward. So that's definitely a plus, definitely a nice aspect to have here. Going to the 25th of January, Mercury retrograde will enter Capricorn. So it's as soon as it enters Capricorn going backward, it will conjoin your natal sun. And so this is a connection to January 1st. January 1st, the sun, that was when transiting Mercury conjoined your natal sun. Now, on January 25th, Mercury is retrograde, but it's in the same place again that it was on the 1st. Um, so, so this indicates something that may have happened on January 1st that you did not fully understand or integrate comes up again on January 25th. So you can think back to what was generally happening right around the 1st. That may need to be revisited on the 25th. And Mercury retrograde conjoining your sun also shows that you're kind of, I can picture it in my mind, but it's hard to put into words. It's like you're reconfiguring how you process things or how you're making changes to your identity at this time. Sun rules our identity, our ego. Mercury retrograde crossing over your natal sun shows that you're making changes to that area. So it could be changes to your appearance or changes to how you express yourself, changes to, I don't know, what drives you or your desires. kind of just little tweaks and changes in all of those areas. The sun represents a large part of our personality, so this could indicate some changes for you. It could also indicate a time of, this will be a little bit contradictory, but Mercury retrograde going over your sun could indicate decreased stamina because you're kind of processing things. So you're maybe not as active right on the 25th on a physical outward level, but it's because you're more active subconsciously and mentally. It's because you're kind of processing things, re-examining things. You're kind of changing on an inner level in your soul and your mind emotionally. So you're kind of just processing things. I think this is an excellent time for reflection, for creativity, for maybe taking a break from like physical work or busyness at this time. Kind of going easy on yourself and allowing yourself to rest at this time would be really great so that you can make these subconscious changes. And I just have to say, there's a lot of aspects in January all month that are kind of going more or less along with this same theme of you making a lot of those inner changes in your mind and your subconscious. I think you're sort of gaining perspective and changing how you look at things and how you react to things. Very interesting. Okay, going forward to the 29th. Mercury retrograde then conjoins your natal Mercury placement, and Pluto is still pretty close here. It is, of course, very slow. So this could bring up, um, it could bring up events that were taking place on the 15th of the month, of the 16th of the month back. Those kind of darker, heavier themes that were playing out that were asking you to evolve on a more mental level. That could be all brought up again on January 29th. And you're really looking back, something could have happened on the 15th or 16th that you didn't fully understand. And so you're taking a second look at all of that on the 29th and, really kind of reflecting. And again, this is something that is also kind of difficult at the time, something that won't make sense. Mercury retrograde is often experienced as a chaotic, unwanted transit, but again, like I said, if you can allow yourself to take a break, if you have the opportunity to kind of just sit back and reflect on things, it would be of extra benefit to you at this time, because we are all more active on a subconscious level while Mercury is retrograde. But this is especially true for you since Mercury retrograde is conjoining. First it conjoined your natal Sun, now it's conjoining your natal Mercury. So you're extra alive on a subconscious level. You're extra, able to access those subconscious parts of your own mind and to, reflect and gain clarity and to integrate in these areas. So things may not make sense at the time as this is happening, but you're just kind of reflecting. It's very subconscious. Later on, once Mercury turns direct, then you'll have very much increased awareness and confidence in these areas. You're just kind of in the midst of gaining that clarity now. You're working on it. Going forward to the 30th, Moon crosses over the same area. So this kind of just continues the same thing. It brings the focus there again. And this is a dark moon. The moon is just before the sun here. So really it brings up a lot of the same themes of reflection and integration. It's dark and heavy, but also really great for creativity, and good for um, gaining self-awareness and gaining perspective. Maybe not immediately, but you're again, you're in the process of it now. On February 1st, there is a new moon at 12 degrees Aquarius. Um, I won't go to the exact time, so I don't know how much into astrology you are if you know about these types of things, but this isn't the chart for the exact new moon, but it does happen on February 1st. Anyway, the new moon happens 12 degrees Aquarius. This is in your fourth house. Yes, and it's near your Saturn. So this too brings the focus to your Saturn return. So maybe those increased responsibilities, especially socially, the Could also have to do with like you maybe kind of becoming a leader in some way socially, leading other people, becoming a teacher or a mentor of sorts, or becoming more active in a group. All of that's been going on for a while now. Um, there could be a potential for a new beginning in these areas, new revitalization, new energy in these areas. So maybe, new developments, new people that you're associating with, new groups, new responsibilities, a new chapter in this area for you. February 3rd, Mercury turns direct at 24 degrees Capricorn. And now it's still close to your natal Mercury, so it'll make that third and final conjunction soon here on February 10th. But uh, but Mercury turning direct here, I think is well, I mean, it's a turning point for everyone. Mercury retrograde is so confusing, but also allows us to reflect more and gain that self awareness. So once Mercury turns direct, we're still working on the same issues that we've been working on during the whole Mercury retrograde, but when it turns direct, it means that we're moving forward again. So we're applying what we gained from that reflection and that increased subconscious awareness. We're applying that now after Mercury turns direct. And again, this is for everyone, but especially for you since Mercury is right, in this kind of personal area of your chart here. So going forward after February 3rd, it just means that I think, well, hopefully I've explained it well enough, but just to be sure here, most of January, I think it was kind of difficult. You did have Sun cross over your Sun, which is good, re-energizing, but there's a lot of difficult stuff as well, a lot of stuff that was hard to digest that you're really processing. So February 3rd, I think, marks a major shift where, and especially after the 10th, when Mercury passes over your natal Mercury, but you're starting to become a lot more confident being able to actually be more active in a physical way and make progress on these things that you've been working on over this past month or two here. Going to February 6th, transiting Sun crosses over your natal Saturn at 18. Yes, at 18 degrees Aquarius, and it's very close to transiting Saturn as well. So this again just brings the focus to your Saturn return. So your involvement with other people, your leadership, um, how you're becoming a leader with other people. This puts the focus there again on February 6th. So you may have that extra weight, but also extra opportunity to lead and this is important just because it's something you're meant to do. It's something that was initially very challenging for you early in life, but you're in this pivotal moment this year of working on becoming, eventually you'll become an expert. You'll become a leader, a mentor in these areas. So February 6th is just one small part of that where, you're putting the focus there and doing the work, showing up to eventually become a leader in these areas, socially with groups, etc. Hopefully that makes sense. Going forward to February 7th, there's a first quarter moon in Taurus, and I would not usually mention a first quarter moon, but this one does square your natal Saturn. It's happening at 18 degrees Taurus, so it squares your natal Saturn by a degree. So this could indicate a lot of maybe challenges in these areas that you're becoming more expressive and more active with other people, socially in groups, working on eventually becoming a leader. But you could have some road bumps on February 7th, some challenges there, and this may be difficult, stressful, may cause anxiety. But it's also good because this first quarter moon aspect, requires change. So I think this could be a very stressful day for you, but it could also be a great day for making some required changes. Um, and again, this might be especially with like socially or have to do with like your commitments or your responsibilities, maybe how you manage your resources. Um, there is this kind of stress there, but it's not stressful as long as you rise to this challenge and are coming from a place of self sufficiency and responsibility, basically. February 10th, transiting Mercury makes that final conjunction with your natal Mercury. So this is much more light and optimistic than before. Whatever you were really struggling with through a lot of January, making those changes, changing how you look at things and your whole mental process, and I don't know, working. There was some kind of problem there and I can't see the exact details of it, but there was a major situation that you were grappling with all of January, and February 10th marks a huge turning point where you have gained a lot of clarity. You understand things now, and so you're kind of working on solving it. Like it's finally kind of controlled or um, solved or remedied. You finally figured things out and are moving forward in a very strong way. You're better off than you were before. So this is really excellent. I think that's kind of uplifting. And let's see, if it does have to do with your beliefs, like you may have found like this sounds so vague, but I don't know. It's like it affects like the way you look at things, the way you think about things. You're seeing things from a whole new light now, a whole different perspective, in a way that's much stronger. So you're much more firm in the way you're seeing things. You're seeing things in a way that's much more closer to maybe the objective truth, or maybe it's just much more functional. So that's good. Going forward to the 14th, transiting Mercury up conjoins your natal Sun. So this too kind of just reinforces a lot of the similar themes here. Of this shows increased busyness, but also increased confidence and working with things that you were struggling with over the last month and a half. But you are making a lot of strides in those areas, making a lot of progress. Everything is going much more smoothly now. And there's a connection to December 30th because Mercury made this, it was in the same place on December 30th. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, really, just in general, at the very end of December and first half of January, whatever was going on there, you're working with the same themes now in mid-February, but making the progress on those areas and moving ahead. February 16th, there's a full moon at 28 degrees Leo. It's close to your natal Chiron, which is at 21 degrees Leo, and it also sort of opposes your natal Saturn at 18 degrees Aquarius. Neither of these aspects are exact, but they are, somewhat close. So this full moon's interesting. It is a Leo full moon, so it is very active. It's like a party energy. But for you, it brings this added weight. It brings this added responsibility. Because it is close to your Chiron and your Saturn. It could mean that you're focusing more on helping others at this time, or you have this kind of responsibility, especially socially with other people. So that's the main theme that I see for this full moon. And this too is a full moon, so it could have to do with a culmination, sort of general increased activity, but especially having to do with something like a completion of some sort. February 18th through the 21st. So, transiting Venus and Mars conjoin, and they stay conjunct, through most of their transit through Capricorn. And from the 18th through the 21st, they reach this very important part of your chart. This triple conjunction you have at 18, 19 degrees Capricorn. And this is an interesting one. It's interesting to analyze. Okay, so transiting Venus and Mars, it means that this is where the desire is. It's where the attraction is. And conjoining your IC, which is your kind of your base, your home life, your upbringing, your past, and your Uranus and Neptune, which together form a lot of like beliefs and a worldview. Combining all of this together, it's a lot of different energies all meeting together here, but this could indicate a lot more pleasure and ambition at home. I think home is important for you anyway, being, having your sun in fourth house and midheaven in Cancer. Um, your home is important to you, especially with your career, something of that nature. So having Venus and Mars here, it means that you're extra ambitious with your home, in your home, at home. You're having more desire, more ambition at home. I'm not sure what that means exactly. More enjoyment there, more pleasure, um, more fun there. Just kind of an odd thing to say. I'm not sure. That's pretty much how I can interpret it. More fun, more enjoyment, more ambition at home. So hopefully, you know what that means. Maybe more activity at home. And yes, okay, so that will really go, that will apply to February 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st as Venus and Mars pass over this area. And then going to the 25th, and I wasn't sure whether to say the 25th or 26th because it's right around midnight Eastern Standard Time, but um, Saturn, transiting Saturn conjoins your natal Saturn. It makes that exact conjunction. Um, so So I'll sound like a broken record, but all whatever it is that you're showing increased responsibility and becoming a leader, becoming more self-sufficient, involving other people, leading other people, becoming more expressive with other people, whatever it is that I know you know what this means for you. It's something I'm trying to get at it, but I don't know the exact specifics. But whatever that is for you, that kind of you're very much right in the midst of it, February 25th and 26th, as Saturn makes that exact conjunction. So you may experience this as definitely added weight, but also opportunity. But it could also be a turning point as Saturn crosses over your natal Saturn. You could be like, so usually right before conjunctions, it's very stressful and difficult because it's almost like a death. It's the very end of the cycle, so it's difficult for us humans. But as we have that conjunction, in this case, transiting Saturn conjoining your natal Saturn, it is almost like a death in a way, but then after the death comes the rebirth. So it's almost like a revitalization, reawakening, re energizing. It's a major turning point. And this is happening in a very gradual way when we're talking about Saturn. It's very slow, but it could indicate you really reaching a turning point in, rising up to these challenges that have been challenging you for, the last year or two. You could be, really gaining that confidence, that really deep confidence that only comes from experience, basically. Gaining that experience and that wisdom in this area, gaining that new kind of leadership role. So that's very, very big. It's big in a long-term way. So it's hard for me to like. This isn't something that just applies to the 25th. It may be manifested as an event or activity right around the 25th or 26th, but this is part of something larger though that's really applying to the whole year. That is just kind of having it's showing itself, as one event kind of right around this day. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, and on the 27th, Transiting Mars, Moon, and Venus all conjoin at 24 degrees Capricorn, very close to your midheaven. So let's see here, 24 degrees. Wait, hold on here. I'm sorry, I'm not sure why I said midheaven. It's very close to your natal Mercury. Mercury's at 26 degrees Capricorn. Okay, it's kind of, it's interesting. There's so many planets here in this area, and then there's so many planets transiting. So first, guess I could just say about that with so many planets lining up in your neck of the woods here in Capricorn, you would experience that as a general, like the focus is on you. There's a lot of activity for you. There's, people noticing you more. There's a lot changing with you. There's, you experience extra confidence, kind of, but at the same time, it's very challenging. And more specifically, man, Venus and Mars all conjunct your natal Mercury. So I don't know. Your mind would almost be like on fire right now. You'd be very sentimental, very emotional, but you'd also be very ambitious and focused on your desires. So I think you'd be, I don't know, this would be a good day for being like really passionate about something, being inspired, knowing exactly what direction you want to go. It could also be overwhelming though, because it's like so much happening for you mentally. Like you're thinking about so much and you're wanting so much. It's almost like there's so much happening. It's kind of hard for me to describe. Um, let's see here. That's on the 27th, actually. Hmm. And this too could mark a transition point as well. These are all conjunctions. All these planets are conjoining your Mercury, so you're you're making a transition point with your thinking. Hmm. I'm just letting that sit for a second. Yeah, I think you're gaining a lot of clarity and perspective on something, but it's also resulting in you being very busy at this time, very scattered. So you're maybe doing a lot of errands or helping a lot of people, interacting with a lot of people at this time. Maybe, dealing with a lot of information, um, being exposed to a lot of information or digesting a lot of information. A lot of busyness for sure on the 27th. Going forward to the 28th, transiting Moon and Saturn will conjoin your natal Saturn at 18 degrees Aquarius. Here you can see it right here. So the Moon just brings that focus again to those extra responsibilities, and um, it could be difficult. It could feel overwhelming at times, but I think this is just part of you gaining that awareness, gaining that responsibility, and so that sovereignty basically. But it just kind of puts the focus there on those added responsibilities for you. Going forward to March 1st, Mars and Venus conjoin your natal Mercury here at 26 degrees Capricorn. So that again would indicate that you're feeling very inspired at this time, very ambitious. You're very busy. You're talking to a lot of different people. But you're getting a lot of enjoyment out of it. I think you know what you want, and you're very busy working toward getting what you want, basically. So this is good. I mean, there's a lot of activity again. Can make you restless, but it's good because you're getting pleasure out of what you're doing. You're working on your kind of dreams, your goals at this time here. March 2nd, Mercury conjoins transiting Saturn, and again, it's very close to your natal Saturn, so um, this would indicate a lot of busyness related to that added responsibility, working with other people, being a leader with other people. And March 2nd, there's also a new moon at 12 degrees Pisces, and it's very close to your natal Venus. So this could indicate um, a new beginning in terms of your desires. um, you could have a new, romantic connection with someone, or a new way of making money. Venus often ends up becoming the planet of love and money because it rules what we desire and what we attract, what we want to attract, what we're attracted to. So a new moon happening close to your Venus just indicates a new beginning. Could also be a new look for you. It'd be a great time to make a change to your appearance if you were interested in doing that. Then this would be a great time. It'd probably look really good. It would turn out well. And also with this new moon close to your Venus, it would just indicate that you would be very desirable at this time. And for the whole month after this, since this is starting a new lunar cycle, um, you're, and especially I think with Venus and Mars conjoining your Mercury, you're generally very desirable at this time. I don't know, you're very attractive to people. These types of Venusian aspects are nice because it's almost like you kind of naturally just do and say the right thing. It's like, you're just naturally charming toward people without even trying. Like myself personally, when I experience these things, I don't even feel like I'm doing anything differently, but with that Venus energy, people just seem to like you more. So that's something that you could experience at this time and sort of take advantage of. Okay. Going forward to March 5th, Mars and Venus conjoin your natal Sun at 29 degrees Capricorn. So this too is similar because these would make you extra aware of your desires, extra ambitious, but also extra attractive toward other people. People would see you as, with Mars conjunct your Sun, traveling over your Sun, that they would see you as being like extra like sexy or cool. Mars kind of has that energy to it. It's kind of sexy or cool or competitive. So you'd be seen that way. You'd be perceived that way right around this time. And with Venus there, you'd be seen as more attractive and approachable and easy, I don't know, graceful or um, like people would enjoy being around you. You're extra desirable or attractive at this time. And you'd feel this as well. You'd feel this kind of boost of like confidence, especially with Mars and Venus. You'd be extra aware of your desires and wanting things more, but also more ambitious and having fun. Mars and Venus are sort of the planets of pleasure, I think, in a way. Um, so you're, I don't know, more attractive, more fun, more confident, having those fun, pleasurable experiences, more focused on those areas of life. So that's excellent. That's a really, really fun aspect to have. Could also indicate you being more active, with a romantic partner or, flirting. Venus and Mars together is great for desire, but also like flirtation or sexual experiences, that type of thing. So all that's kind of on the table with this aspect here on the 5th. Also on the 5th, Sun conjoins Jupiter at 15 degrees Pisces, and it's right next to your natal Venus, which is at 16 degrees Pisces. So that would indicate that's kind of echoes a lot of the same themes. Sun and Jupiter are bringing energy and expansion and revitalization to your natal Venus, which is how you attract things, how you, it's your attractiveness and your desires. So this just amplifies a lot of the same themes that you're kind of focused on your desires and you're very desirable at this time. People like you at this time. So definitely flaunt that and take advantage of that. Going forward to March 6th, transiting Sun makes that exact conjunction to your natal Venus. So this kind of continues a lot of the same themes of, you being extra attractive or desirable right now, and also focused on your desires. And again, Venus can bring with it kind of money and abundance as well. It's a benefic. So um, you could have more abundance at this time, especially with Jupiter approaching your Venus as well. You could have that abundance not only maybe financially, but also with, like romantically, for instance. So this is really great. There's a lot of really pleasurable, awesome things associated with these aspects here. So March for you so far looks way better than January. January was really difficult, really heavy, but also really good for, evolving and all that, getting smarter, wiser, stronger. And then February is that turning point where we're moving forward in a really strong way. And then the first week of March just looks a lot more pleasant in general. And so yeah, that's definitely good. Definitely needed, I think. And also on the 6th, Mars and Venus move into Aquarius together. Let's see, I don't think this is super big for you. They're still close to your sun, so the same would apply where you're still extra focused on your desires, extra desirable, etc. Okay. And going forward to March 10th. March 10th, there is a quarter moon at 19 degrees. Yes, 19 degrees Gemini. Okay. So that's interesting because the moon will be exactly opposing your natal moon, which is not a big deal. That happens every month. But the reason why it's interesting is because it happens at the same time as this first quarter square. And you also have your nodes in line with this. So March 10th could be scattered for you. You could feel like you're at a crossroads. Like you could have a literal situation develop in your life where you have to make a choice. You have to decide between this or that path. And you could just feel a general sense of anxiety or, like this would be really great for being busy at this time, being active, because if you try to rest, you'll just kind of have that feeling of anxiety. So it's really good to be productive at this time. Be working towards something. It might just be confusing to know exactly what to work toward exactly, but it's where you have to make that kind of choice in order to proceed forward. And then also we have Jupiter, transiting Jupiter, making that conjunction to your natal Venus. So this is really excellent. Both of these planets are benefics, meaning that they have abundance and they're the easiest planets to work with in astrology. They, almost all their themes are like positive and easy for us to experience, generally speaking. So transiting Jupiter, crossing over your natal Venus, it shows expansion of your desires, basically. So it's interesting that it's happening at the same time of this kind of crossroads. So you may feel this crossroads and anxiety, but at the same time, there's a choice or an opportunity today for that expansion with your desires. So money, romance, um, something of that nature is kind of being expanded at this time. Going forward to March 18th, there is a full moon at 28 degrees Virgo. And Virgo is a pretty quiet, desolate part of your chart. There's not a lot going on over here. So, what I will say is that this is in your 12th house. And so this would be a good time for, spirituality or kind of looking at the bigger questions apply for kind of reflecting as well. So like if you could kind of be slower and maybe spend time like reading or spending time in nature, allowing yourself to relax, that type of thing is really great for boosting your intuition and your creativity with the full moon in the 12th house here. It could also indicate that you're sort of like figuring things out, figuring out things of a subconscious or mystical level at this time on the 18th. On the 19th of March, transiting Mercury will conjoin your natal Venus. There's a lot of Venus aspects in general from March 6th through March 19th. So this Venusian energy, the energy around your desires and your attractiveness, this really applies to the whole of March. So that's a great thing. That's really excellent. But transiting Mercury conjoining your natal Venus. I would see that as potential for increased busyness with your desires. So I don't know, maybe um, also with these two planets getting together, there's a potential for a lot of conversation. So maybe a lot of like desirable conversations. You're having pleasant interactions with people, or I don't know, talking a lot with people that you desire. It could also indicate that you are communicating in a way that's very desirable to people at this time as well. All right, and then going forward to March 25th, transiting Venus conjoins your natal Saturn at 18 degrees Aquarius. This to me would indicate that you are experiencing a lot of ease now with those that increased weight, responsibilities, with interacting with others, with group interactions. That becomes a lot easier now with Venus there. You have this kind of flare. I mean, I think you've had this kind of phase of flare or attractiveness I've been talking about. So this applies to your responsibilities as well. Your commitments and goals are a little bit easier right around the 25th. Like you're making progress in that with them a lot more naturally at this time. March 28th, transiting Saturn, Moon, and Venus all conjoin at 21 degrees Aquarius. And so this kind of continues the same theme of making a lot of progress with your commitments and responsibilities, becoming a lot more sovereign and all that, doing and putting in the work, especially related to other people or groups. So the focus is very much back to there on the 28th, but again, it's still pretty easy with Venus involved as well. On March 30th, transiting Mars conjoins your natal Saturn now. So this would be a little bit different. It could indicate some edginess, some competition or anxiety. Maybe, I don't know, increased competition with others at this time regarding your leadership with other people, or I don't know, your self-expression with groups could be rubbing up against people in the wrong way, maybe. But this would also indicate maybe increased confidence and I don't know, ambition in those areas for you as well. Okay, April 1st, there is a new moon at 11 degrees Aries. And okay, April 1st and April 2nd, there's sort of similar developments going on, right? In Aries. Um, so the new moon here, well, first let me talk about what happens on the second, because there's a lot of developments happening on the first and the second that are kind of related. So on the second, there's transiting Sun, Mercury, and Chiron all conjoin at 21 degrees Aries. Not exactly all together at the same time, but they're at the same degree. And they're close to your descendant at 16 degrees Aries. And then just the day before was that new moon at 11 degrees Aries. Also pretty close to your descendant here in the mid Aries. So April 1st and 2nd, I would see a potential for a new beginning and increased activity regarding your connections with other people. This would apply toward people in general, but especially toward one-on-one partnerships of any kind. You could have a new beginning in those areas, a new connection, maybe new connections with other people, and also just increased activity there as well. So if you're already in a relationship, you would likely be spending a lot of time with that person. There'd be a lot of activity surrounding that person. That person may be very busy and having a lot of things happening to them that you would kind of be going along for the ride with. If you're not in a relationship, then you could just have a lot of people in your life that there's a lot of stuff happening to them just in general, and going along with that activity as well. But again, like I said, there's also a potential for making new connections, or maybe connections you already have with people becoming deeper or more complex on the 1st and 2nd of April. Okay, April 5th, Venus enters Pisces, and this is good for you because you have your natal Venus in Pisces. So transiting Venus moves to the same sign as your natal Venus. So this is comfortable for you. This starts, a month or so of um, increased, attractiveness and desire. You're feeling you're just naturally sort of desirable to other people, and you're naturally attracting to you what you want. So again, this is all really good, easy stuff with Venus involved. And in a way, it almost kind of just continues a lot of the same themes. A lot of these themes were already happening in March because of other aspects, and then now with Venus entering your Venus sign of Pisces, it's like it resumes that same kind of phase of that increased attractiveness and desirability with you, and I don't know, you naturally kind of attracting to yourself what you want. So that's really excellent. Going forward to April 8th, transiting Mercury. Where is it? Transiting Mercury here, it's at 25, 26 degrees Aries, will make a brief square to your natal Mercury at 26 degrees Capricorn. So this, especially being a first quarter square and especially being in Aries, would indicate to me that you might be very busy at this time, very restless, very active, thinking a lot, talking a lot, learning a lot. So being with different people, uh, different places around your neighborhood, like different errands, all that kind of stuff is on the table with this Mercury aspect here. Going forward to April 16th, there is a full moon at 26 degrees Libra. It's close, it's not conjunct, but it's close to your ascendant descendant axis, and it's squaring your natal Mercury, which is interesting because we just had Mercury square your Mercury. Um, I guess a couple of weeks, well, week and a half ago, but now this full moon is squaring your Mercury. So let's see here, Sun 26 degrees. So this would kind of light up. It would light up your ascendant descendant axis. So it would light up your self-expression a lot, light up your activity with other people, especially one-on-one partnerships or interactions. You'd have more activity in those areas. And squaring your Mercury, it's almost like you'd definitely be very busy. You could be extra like frazzled or extra overstimulated at this time, for sure. But there's just that general increased activity of interactions with others at this time on the 16th. All right, and then going to the 19th of April. Oops. Transiting Sun squares your natal Sun. Transiting Sun 29 degrees Aries squares your natal Sun at 29 degrees Capricorn. So this too would be an aspect that would make you kind of restless, anxious, but also, it's because you want to be really productive at this time. There's a lot of new stuff happening, a lot of changes, and so this would be really excellent for being very productive, being very active, and putting that anxious or frenetic energy, putting that to use in a very active way here. Right, and going forward to April 20th. Transiting Venus conjoins your natal Venus at 16 degrees Pisces. So this is also called a Venus return. Happens once every year where Venus, reaches the place where it was when you were born, basically. So this too would just indicate a time of increased attractiveness, and um, I'm echoing a lot of the same themes of March and April. Of April 20th would indicate a day where you're very attractive to other people. You naturally attract to you what you want, whether that be, with resources like financially, things, abundance just kind of comes to you naturally on this day. But also your interactions with other people are kind of flawless. People, um, I don't know, they're swayed by you more easily at this time, I guess. Going forward to April 30th, A new moon solar eclipse happens at 10 degrees Taurus. Now, this is a relatively empty part of your chart as well. You can see here there's not a whole lot going on at 26 degrees Taurus in your chart. Um, and it doesn't even really aspect anything. And now it does, or excuse me, 10 degrees Taurus. Um, you also don't have you don't have a lot of planets at the beginning of signs. They're all, midway or toward the end. So this new moon, kind of close to the beginning of Taurus, doesn't affect a lot in your chart. It is in your seventh house, so it could indicate a new beginning with other people, so new interactions, new connections with other people. But it's definitely not a game changer. It's not a life changing event by any means. Going forward to May 6th. May 6th, transiting Mars conjoins your natal Venus at 16 degrees Pisces. And the transiting moon trines these Pisces planets on the same day. Transiting Mars, Neptune, and Jupiter are all kind of trined by transiting moon. And so with the Mars crossing over your natal Venus, this would be very sexual with Mars on over your Venus. Could also just have to do with like interactions with um, men, like desirable interactions with men. It doesn't have to be sexual necessarily, but it could be just like pleasant experiences with them, or flirtation would be a big thing right now, or I don't know, maybe like a kind of fun, competitive energy. um, but the moon making this trine, I think it's all in good fun. There's this stable, harmonious kind of fun energy to it at this time. So, um, yeah, I guess that's main part of what I see here. Going forward to May 9th, Mercury turns retrograde at 4 degrees Gemini. So that's not really aspecting anything in your chart, but it's something to kind of be aware of, I guess. It will go back to 26 degrees Taurus, so that's interesting because well, I'll talk more about that in just a moment here once we get there. But first, going to May 16th, there's a full moon lunar eclipse at 25 degrees Scorpio. Um, and this is interesting because it makes an exact conjunction. Looks like it's very early on the 16th, but it makes an exact conjunction with your natal Pluto. Um, Full moon exactly conjunct your natal Pluto. So this could kind of awaken a different side of your personality, something that's usually more subconscious. You could be very intuitive at this time, very instinctive, and I don't know, very driven in like a very subconscious way. It's almost like you have this really deep inner power that's kind of awakened at this time. And um, full moons are generally very active times for everyone. A lot of activity, a lot of commotion, a lot of culmination. So you would come to this increased activity with this increased sense of awareness and power within yourself. So that's really um, excellent to use, I guess. May 16th through 17th, Venus at 16 degrees Aries conjoins your descendant. So this is kind of mixed. It indicates that you're seeing other people as more attractive right now. Venus is conjunct your descendant, so descendant is other people. It's the outside world. It opposes the ascendant. Ascendant is the self identity. It opposes the descendant, which is other people. Relationships, our outside world, etc. So Venus conjoining the descendant, it means that you see other people as more attractive than yourself at this time. So it's almost like, the ball's not in your court. You are kind of lacking in that power a little bit at this time. But at the same time, it means that you can have more enjoyment through other people kind of vicariously, and that you can have that, those pleasurable experiences with by by associating with people that are pleasurable, if that makes sense. Um, Going forward to May 30th, I know that was a big jump. I did say that it becomes generally less active later in the year here. Uh, May 30th, there's a new moon solar eclipse at 9 degrees Gemini. And it is sort of close to opposing your natal moon, and it's close to your south node. So, new moon solar eclipse. I think this could be kind of dark for you actually. So it lights up an area of your life that you are naturally good at dealing with. Um, hmm. New moon solar eclipse in Gemini. So it's asking for us to be kind of very social and very, active mentally, and to, work with other people and have all these interactions, and you're good at all that. But it's like your comfort zone. Is you're good at all that, but if you stay there, you're not really evolving. Um, and this is also opposing your natal moon, so it's kind of tricky to analyze. But I think this could be an energy that you know how to deal with very well, but at the same time, it's not good for you. Um, it could bring about sort of a darker theme. So, so I would say, hmm, I think it would be important at this time to stay grounded and true to yourself. I think May 30th, with this eclipse, it'd be very easy to get lost in other people. You're good at interacting with other people, but it's not always good for you. You could get lost in it when there's no boundaries. So I think May 30th, just remember what makes you passionate, where your fire is, where your emotional core is, and stay grounded and stay true to yourself basically. June 12th, Mercury stations direct, or excuse me, June 2nd, not 12th. But it's interesting because it stations direct at 26 degrees Taurus, so it's making that trine to your natal Mercury at 26 degrees Capricorn. So this indicates like some heavy but very positive changes mentally. So you could um, be thinking in a very constructive way, be learning a lot at this time. Maybe your thinking and your communication is being validated. It's of extra value at this time. It's your communication is extra poignant or extra hard hitting. The way you think and communicate is extra effective at this time, and there could be new ideas that you're getting at this time, I guess. June 14th, there is a full moon. Whoops. June 14th, there's a full moon at 23 degrees Sagittarius, and this is very close to your natal moon at 19 degrees Sagittarius and your north node. Um, so this I think would be a lot more comfortable for you because the moon is lining up with your natal moon. So, and this is very much a party energy. Full moons are always sort of like that, but especially in the Gemini Sagittarius axis, which is so focused on fun and adventure and learning. I think this would be a great day for like a party for you, or being, I don't know, very active, very open, outgoing, very sociable. You're feeling very much in your elements with this full moon on the 14th. So you can, everyone in general, I think, would be kind of outgoing at this time, very jovial, but you especially would be really feeling it, really in your element with this, and really having a lot of fun, able to learn and adventure. um, I don't know. There's so many things. This is a mutable energy. There's so many different ways this could go, but this type of dynamic would be really great for humor, partying, learning, adventuring, etc. So it has that kind of fun, expansive vibe to it. This is something you would embrace very naturally. Going forward to June 16th, Mars at 16 degrees Aries conjoins your descendant at 16 degrees um, Aries. I'm sorry. So this would show that you are maybe attracting competitive people, very masculine personalities or competitive, dominant personalities. And let's see what else here. It could also be like sexual personalities. So this is good. I mean, Mars can be a bit of an asshole, so it'd be, good to be cautious and to be dealing with people like this. But it can also be fun to be dealing with people that are very outgoing and fiery. You are a Libra rising, so I think you do enjoy being with people who are more strong-willed. So I mean, just like anything, it's good with moderation, I suppose. So, um, so this, so I guess in short, this could be maybe negative if you're around people that are overly overbearing or obnoxious or competitive or aggressive. But then the good thing would be that you could also be around people that are strong-willed who are very open and outgoing at this time. Maybe sexual, I don't know. So that could be potentially good. Mars is kind of hit and miss. I don't know, it really depends. But that's definitely something to look out for on June 16th. June 22nd, transiting Mars, Moon, and Chiron. Oh, okay. So this isn't an exact aspect, but it's just something I noticed that Mars, Moon, and Chiron, and to a lesser extent Jupiter, are all clustered right around your descendant. So this would indicate a lot of activity and commotion going on with other people in your life, especially one-on-one partnerships. So whoever's most important in your life, there's a lot going on with them. They're maybe a lot more moody than usual, I think would be the main thing. Um, and I don't know, they might be more emotional, mood swings, up and down. Also very passionate though. That could be a good thing. Very passionate, um, very motivated, very vocal, very expressive. But that's just something to look out for. That extra activity right around this time with other people in your life. June 28th, there's a new moon at 6 degrees Cancer. And it is close to your natal Mars. It's not exact. It's close to your Mars. And see, and it's in your ninth house. So generally speaking, this would be a good new beginning with higher learning. Um, I don't know whether that be spiritual or academic, just kind of learning more complex concepts. Um, that's the main thing. It's not a big aspect. Doesn't aspect a lot in your chart or anything, but there's that kind of new beginning potential there for you in that area. Okay, going forward a bit to July 10th, transiting Venus conjoins your natal south node. So this would mean that you have this trait about you where you are good at fitting in with other people and saying what people kind of want to hear. So Venus crossing over this area indicates that you're sort of extra good at being desirable in this area. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it here. Going forward to July 13th, there's a full moon at 21 degrees Capricorn. And let's see, so this is right in this area here by this cluster of planets you have. And it's right next to your midheaven IC axis. So this could indicate a culmination and increased activity at home in your home life. Um, I think like I said before, you have potential for being a homebody. You have a lot of activity surrounding your home. Home is important to you. So there's some kind of culmination or increased activity in that area at home. I'm not sure how to get more specific other than that, but that's the main thing I see there. Oh, it affects your career as well. So something it's mostly having to do with your home life, but it's affecting your career. Some kind of culmination, increased activity. That's really all I could see. Hopefully that's helpful. Going forward to the 16th through 22nd, transiting Sun and Mercury will be generally opposing your natal Sun and Mercury at this time from the 16th through the 22nd here. So this can be a little bit difficult because those planets are as far away as they get from your own Sun and Mercury. So you could have sort of a energetic low point at this time. And this is a general theme I noticed for summer because you have so many planets in Capricorn that I think maybe the hardest time for you is right around this time in July, just generally speaking. Now this doesn't look particularly super difficult. I think January looked actually more difficult. Um, but this just shows maybe, kind of a low point, like I was saying, from July 16th through 22nd. Maybe a little bit low energy, or you feel like kind of things are more against you a little bit. It's nothing, super dramatic again, but uh, that's generally it. It's almost like the focus is not so much on you, it's more on like other people, for instance, which can be maybe more difficult. But it's good for like maybe resting if you can, taking it easy somewhat to some degree, giving yourself a break. Going forward to July 28th, there's a new moon at 5 degrees Leo. This is also not, it really doesn't aspect anything in your chart, but it is in the 10th house, so it could indicate a new beginning in your career, new activity in your job, etc., new focus there. So that's definitely good. Other than that, it's not a super, it's not really dramatically changing anything, I don't think. July 29th, transiting, where is it? Transiting Venus conjoins your natal Mars at 13 degrees Cancer. So I think your ambitions and the way you um, assert yourself, the way you strive toward your ambitions, all that is kind of like blessed at this time. Like it has a natural grace to it where you are naturally, accomplishing your desires in that area on the 29th. So that's a plus. Basically, it's an added bonus here. July 29th. Okay. August 1st, there's this cluster here, Mars, Uranus, and the North Node, the transiting North Node, all at around 17, 18 degrees Taurus. They're all squaring your natal Saturn, which is at 18 degrees Aquarius. This is actually the first of a series of aspects I noticed in August, which are having to do with your natal Saturn. So this August is a big month for your Saturn return, which, again, I've said this multiple times, so I'm sure you get it by now, but, um, it's a huge step in your maturation process in like gaining that sovereignty and, eventually becoming a leader with other people, becoming more expressive with people, becoming more involved with groups of people, maybe socially, also taking on more responsibility, etc. So all that is coming more into the focus as we enter August, going into August here. Um, But specifically on August 1st, this cluster of planets is squaring your natal Saturn, so it's adding a lot of challenge there. So you may feel, more stressed in those areas, and really feeling the weight of those responsibilities, and not always knowing what to do, and feeling, this can make you feel kind of like lost or alone. But it's something constructive. It's something you're working through. This is a first quarter square, so it's wanting you to be very active. It's pushing you to do more and to be, um, it like you may feel very stressed at this time, but it's also giving you a lot of energy, which allows you to get out there and to do more in these areas. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but it's pushing you to evolve and to become more involved as well. August 2nd, transiting Venus conjoins your midheaven at 18 degrees Cancer. So this is really excellent. This just shows that your whole reputation and your career is blessed at this time, I guess I could say. So people are seeing you in a really positive light, especially in public or at your career with your job. You're seen as someone who's very like graceful and easy to be around. And you could also experience like abundance with your job at this time as well. Something, things are just kind of really easy in that sector of your life right around August 2nd. Um, and people experience that easy energy with you at this time in those areas as well. August 11th, there's a full moon at 19 degrees Aquarius, and this is very close to your Saturn, which is at 18 degrees Aquarius. Um, so again, this is bringing attention to those responsibilities and the your evolution, like socially. Since it is a full moon, it's shining a light on these areas, illuminating these areas, and it's a culmination of sorts, and it adds a lot of increased activity in these areas, a lot of busyness. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, it also increases that theme. It starts out with the 1st of August where there's a lot of stress and maybe unexpected changes pushing you to do more in these areas of being a leader, being more expressive with other people, um, being more sovereign. And then this is continued on the 11th when there's this sort of culmination of this big like bang of activity at this time. The 11th I think is less challenging and it's more eventful though, um, more of a culmination or like a finalizing. And then going forward to the 14th, transiting Sun opposes transiting Saturn, and they're both very close to making those aspects with your natal Saturn, which is at 18 degrees Aquarius, of course. So um, let's see here, and then also the Sun is conjunct your natal Chiron at 21 degrees Leo for this full moon, it's not a full moon, but it's an opposition between the Sun and Saturn. So this would show continued activity and those responsibilities, whatever's going on socially with you, where you're taking on more responsibility and leadership. That is again the focus here, and this time we have your Chiron being involved. So there's a light being shown on your traumas, your personal wounds. Um, so okay. I just realized something. So your natal Chiron is opposing your Saturn. So I think maybe part of your leadership with other people has to do with something involving your own personal wounds or traumas. So maybe something that you struggled with, earlier in life the way you get over that is by helping other people with that problem or that, struggle. So that could be something that comes into play on the 14th with this aspect here, with this opposition. You're helping other people, something to do with your past traumas, or but using your experience with those struggles to heal other people or help other people. That could be, so just to clarify, that's maybe part of your kind of soul growth as a whole in your, late 20s going into your like 30, 31. That's a general theme that's playing out, but it's specifically applying to August 14th. Okay, going forward here to August 15th, there is a new moon at, wait a minute. August 15th. Actually, let's see. There's not a new moon there yet, quite yet. But going forward to August 25th, there we go. August 25th, Mercury reaches its pre-shadow at 29 degrees Virgo, and it also trines your sun at that same time. So basically what this means is starting on August 25th, Mercury is entering the region that it will eventually retrograde back over once it turns retrograde soon. So starting on August 25th, there's a lot of activity happening that we're not all integrating. This applies to everyone, not just you. But this especially applies to you just because this Mercury is trining your natal sun right as it enters this pre-shadow zone. So you especially might be affected by this Mercury retrograde. You'd be experiencing a lot of things starting on the 25th, a lot of increased activity. You might be very busy, but because of this, you're not able to integrate everything. But you'll really revisit what's happening now a little bit later once Mercury turns retrograde. Okay, and then going forward to September 2nd, Pluto retrograde makes the second exact conjunction of the year to your natal Mercury. So this is making a connection to that day in January 15th, I believe. Yes. So something that you were struggling with back in mid-January kind of comes up again in a different way on September 2nd, or right around the beginning of September, we could say. So this again is the struggle sort of mentally, intellectually, psychologically. It's a struggle with your thinking or communication. There's some kind of challenge there. And again, it's very dark, but it's asking you to evolve and gain clarity. So that aspect kind of comes up again here, September 2nd. Hold on just one moment here. I see. Okay, earlier I had written the date wrong, but what I was looking at was this new moon right here. So there's this new moon on August 27th at 4 degrees Virgo. And here, let me just correct that here. This is not a major new moon by any means. I said before, Virgo's pretty desolate part of your chart. There's not a lot of activity going on there. And this is in the early degrees of Virgo as well, and you really don't have a lot of planets in early degrees. So this is not a major life changer for you by any means. However, it is a new moon, and it is in your 11th house, so it could indicate new beginning, new chapters involving how you associate with other people, groups you affiliate with, new friends, or maybe new developments with friends, that type of thing. As a potential starting on August 27th. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got a little bit out of order here, but going back on track here, then we have the that Pluto aspect I just mentioned on September 2nd, and then after that we go to September 9th, where Mercury turns retrograde at 8 degrees Libra. This is in your 12th house, so um, this Mercury retrograde is interesting because it will come back to that trine with your sun, but the whole retrograde is pretty much in your 12th house, so it's very subconscious for you. Um, I think this is actually kind of nice because you won't perhaps feel as much of that classic Mercury retrograde that we feel, where it seems like all the electronics stop working and everything's dysfunctional. For you, you wouldn't experience it as physically. It wouldn't be as physically manifested. For you, it'd be more subconscious though. So you're kind of rethinking and reintegrating on a more subconscious level, on a more intuitive level. Um, so that's where this focuses. That's where the change is. The revisiting, the re-editing is more about your subconscious for this Mercury retrograde. So that's what sort of starts on the 9th. You've been so busy in the weeks coming up to this that you haven't been getting all that clarity. You haven't been integrating everything. Um, so this starts, that revisiting process where you can go back and re-examine, reintegrate what you missed before. September 10th, there is a full moon at 17 degrees Pisces, which is interesting because it is pretty close to conjunct your natal Venus at 16 degrees Pisces. So this could be a culmination, increased activity um, with whatever you desire, with with abundance. So with your resources, with money, with love, with romance, it could be some kind of drama in these areas, or kind of increased activity, or full moons are kind of theatrical. So um, there's this like with full moons, things are not just super active. There's a lot going on, but it almost feels like fated or karmic. Theatrical, dramatic. So this would apply to your your attractiveness and what you attract, what you desire. All of that would be kind of in the forefront of this kind of epic drama that's happening on September 10th. September 15th through 17th, Moon in Gemini. Moon will transit through Gemini and it's close to Mars. And so both Moon and Mars are kind of opposing your natal Moon. So I think this could create some edginess and some tension, some emotional ups and downs, emotional extremes, or just feeling like things are against you, feeling like people are against you, feeling kind of drained, maybe, um, feeling like you're lacking that fire or charisma or energy. Um, but let's see here. But this is pretty brief. The moon's just there for those couple days. I'm trying to think of a positive with this. It is by your south node, so you are really good at being social and like learning things and figuring things out. So all that would be amped up, like those skills that you have in those areas. But at the same time, it could feel kind of difficult going through it. But again, luckily that's pretty brief. By the 18th, that will more or less dissipate. And then from the 17th through the 24th, Sun and Venus will trine your natal Mercury and Sun. at the end of Virgo. So this is just a really generally nice aspect to have. These, the Sun and Venus are trining these two personal planets that you have. So you would just naturally feel more confident, more charismatic, um, like like you're more in your element, so to speak, for these days here. So that's really great. Definitely one of the more positive times of the year, I think, here. And that continues to the 24th. Then on the 25th, there's a new moon at 2 degrees Libra. It's in the 12th house and it does not aspect anything in your chart really. It is in the same sign as your ascendant though, so this could be kind of a new beginning for you, a new chapter, feeling like you're kind of refreshed, I guess. This is also in the 12th house, so it could be having to do with like increased awareness consciously or increased awareness like metaphysically or spiritually, increased focus in those areas. September 26th, transiting Venus, transiting Venus conjoins transiting Mercury, uh, and then both trine your natal Mercury. Writing that down. Okay. So, okay, this is interesting. So Mercury is still retrograde. So this is a brief aspect. And Mercury retrograde is showing that, you're still kind of re-examining things, re-looking at your things of a subconscious or spiritual nature. Um, but I think this is easy for you. I think it's very positive. It is kind of re-examining, restructuring, having to grow, having to evolve. But I think this is done very naturally. Again, it is trining your natal planets here, and especially with Venus involved, I think there's some enjoyment and some fun out of this. You're getting pleasure out of this. It's very, again, it's very easy, very natural, very cons- constructive for you. So this is a pleasant aspect, pleasant dynamic here. Going to September 28th, transiting Venus trines your natal sun. So this is also just a really positive, nice aspect. Um, just showing that you're getting extra enjoyment out of things, and you're also more attractive toward other people. So Venus is kind of just agreeing with your own energy that you vibrate with. So that's a really kind of positive and fun aspect to have. September 30th, uh, Mars. Transiting Mars makes an exact opposition to your natal moon. So this could make you feel, could kind of bring about those ups and downs emotionally, or make you feel a little bit drained at times. The transiting moon is in your natal moon sign though, so that's good at least that you definitely are feeling aware of what you're feeling, and you are very aware on those levels. You know exactly where you stand on things, but at the same time, you're a little bit edgy, I think, with Mars making this opposition here. And you're feeling like other people are being very competitive or maybe overbearing, like other people, like you're more sensitive, I think, at this time. October 1st, Mercury retrograde enters Virgo, or no, excuse me, Mercury stations direct at 24 degrees Virgo. So it again kind of makes this trine to your natal Mercury. So I think this is good. Uh, I think you've gained a lot of clarity with this, or there's a potential to have gained a lot of clarity with this aspect here, since it is in your second or 12th house. I mean, um, and it's also trining your Mercury. So I think you have the potential to have gained a lot of perspective and evolved a lot from this experience, but in a way that was kind of natural and fun to you. It's really strengthening your ego and your mind in a very like easy way. Just generally speaking, the end of September looks like a really great time for you. I think you're kind of things are very natural to you, very easy, relatively speaking. October 5th, transiting moon conjoins Saturn at 18 degrees Aquarius, which happens to be right where your natal Saturn is. So this again brings the focus back to those responsibilities and those interactions with other people, with groups, the commitments that you've been taking on. It's hard to say exactly more detailed than that, but I just generally speaking that it brings the focus there, so more increased activity there. At this time, there's also a lot of these air trines. I noticed they're not really exact, but we have Moon and Saturn in Aquarius, Venus and Sun in Libra, and Mars in Gemini. And this is nice for you because you do have Libra rising, so all these air planets are trining, making kind of loose trines, making a loose grand trine, which is involving your Saturn and your ascendant. So I think this is really, really great for, rising up to the challenges, rising up to those extra responsibilities and commitments, but in a way that allows you to have fun, I think, and to kind of show your personal flair with handling those types of things. So I think this is potentially really, really great for being constructive for you, and allowing you to embrace this responsibility. Going forward to October 9th, there's a full moon at 16 degrees Aries. This is really interesting. So I actually looked at this very closely, and it is exactly conjunct your descendant. Um, the ascendant descendant axis is very important, and with a full moon like this, Sun is exactly conjunct your ascendant, and the moon is exactly conjunct your descendant to the minute, so to the fraction of the degree. It's very tight conjunction. So this would very much indicate a culmination. So you could meet a new person that might be very important in your life, or have a big event change a major relationship in your life. Um, See, I don't know. You'd be very expressive at this time, but you'd also be like you have this potential to connect with people at this time in a very strong way, to have a really deep, meaningful connection. And that can be romantic. It doesn't have to be romantic though. It could be anything really. There's this potential for new beginnings to happen there, but also culminations. And again, it's theatrical, it's dramatic, it's karmic and fated. Chiron's involved. Venus is conjuncture. It's almost conjuncture ascendant. So you again are very desirable at this time, and you're very open and expressive, and you're really in your own element. And there's this connection that happens on this full moon. So I don't know, you have this potential to really connect with someone on a deep level, to have a new relationship or have existing relationships change in a very dramatic way. But I think this is overall pretty positive. Um, yeah, it looks interesting. It just looks excellent for like building intimacy with someone on some level. October 10th, transiting Mercury trines your natal sun. So this would just generally indicate that you might be very busy at this time, but it's in a way that's very harmonious, so very kind of pleasant or strong. Um, and you're also thinking very clearly at this time, basically. Is what I would see from that. October 12th, transiting Venus conjoins your natal ascendant. So this just means that you're very, approachable, attractive at this time. People receive you very well, and you attract your desires to you very naturally. Right on October 12th. Could also be a really great time for changing your appearance as well. If you do change your appearance, it would be very good. It would turn out very well. That's the potential anyway. All right, and then going forward to October 13th. Uh, so this is not an exact aspect, but this again shows all these grand air trines as the moon enters Gemini. So there's Saturn in Aquarius, Moon and Mars in Gemini, and then Mercury, Venus, and Sun in Libra, where your ascendant is. So all this is kind of connecting again with your ascendant, your Jupiter, and your Saturn. And so this is a great time for, again, adding those extra responsibilities and becoming more involved and becoming a leader, becoming more sovereign. Um, but also just in general, I think this would create a general feeling of empowerment for you with these air trines. So that's just, I wrote in my notes, it's a good time, I think. Yeah, a good time. So this just looks like a really strong time for you in general from October 13th through 15th. October 21st, transiting Mercury conjoins your ascendant. So this would indicate you being very busy, being this more intellectual, so like learning a lot, talking a lot, interacting with people a lot, being very busy, errands, or being very active, having a lot of short distance travel in your neighborhood or what have you, or town, whatever, um, etc. And then going forward to October 22nd, Saturn stations direct on October 22nd, so it starts moving forward again, and it's very close to your natal Saturn. It's at 18 degrees Aquarius. Uh, so this again just shows that you are taking on that increased responsibility and tackling something on your own and making progress with that basically. On October 24th, transiting Sun, Moon, and Mercury all square your natal. Oh, okay. Right, so this cluster of planets here, basically Mercury, Moon, Sun, Venus, are all squaring your natal Sun and Mercury. So that would be more edgy, it would be more stressful or tense, but it's a third quarter square. So this is kind of, it is making you restless, making you want to change things or be more active, but this is a third quarter square, so it's more philosophical in nature. So it could have to do with being more physically active, but it's also more mental and more psychological. So you're kind of reflecting a lot and um, I don't know, just seeing if you need to look at things differently or analyze things differently. Need if you're looking to make changes to your life, that type of thing. So this is a more kind of stressful dynamic on October 24th, but it's excellent um, for making change basically. Uh, this aspect, yeah, this would bring about a lot of change for you, but it would be an excellent time for you to make changes to your life. This wouldn't be like anything super major life changing or anything, but it is definitely something you'd experience in the midst of it during that day. Kind of some tension and need to be busy, need to change things up a little bit here. October 25th, there's a new moon at 1 degree Scorpio, conjunct Venus at 2 degrees Scorpio. And, this one also is not a super important new moon, except for the fact that it is in your first house. So it is kind of allowing you to have a new beginning, a new chapter here, and feel more revitalized and more self-expressive, more expressive, basically, just generally speaking. So nothing super major, but just kind of nice for making you feel more in your element and giving you that extra boost of clarity and confidence. All right, jumping forward a little bit here to November 8th. There is a full moon lunar eclipse at 15 degrees Taurus. This is very special and important day for everybody, I think. It's a pretty potent eclipse. Um, but this one in particular for you is at 15 degrees Taurus. So it is squaring your natal Saturn. And this full moon is not alone. The full moon itself conjoins Uranus and the North Node, which is what makes it an eclipse. And then the Sun, which is exactly opposite, is joined by Mercury and Venus. And then all of these planets and nodes are making a T-square with your natal Saturn and with the transiting Saturn, which are both at 18 degrees Aquarius. So the main way this would affect you, I think, it would be in a very um, like there is something that's happening today, like on the November 8th, but it's not just affecting the day, it's affecting you in a very long-term way. It's something, I think this is a very challenging day for you. It's almost like a really big test, I think. Um, Let me see here. Yeah, I think it's a crossroads. I think you have to make a major decision. There's a lot of weight on your shoulders. There's a lot of people counting on you. And again, it's something you have to make this choice in alone. It's something that only you know how to make this decision. It's almost like you can't even really ask anyone for help, or maybe you can, but at the end of the day, it's you that needs to rise up to this big challenge here. Um, and it's a test, but I think this will be rewarding. Um, I think it's nothing that you can't handle, and I think it's just about staying true to yourself and knowing deep down inside what the right choice is. Uh, this does aspect your Saturn here. I think even though the full moon is in Taurus and in all these planets are in Scorpio and Taurus, for you the main thing that it influences is this point in Aquarius here. It makes this T square where the that point becomes here. It's almost like all this energy becomes fixated here. So for you, it's on your goals, your commitments, your responsibility, your maturity, your sovereignty, um, your foundation. That's where the stress is. That's where the focus is, and that's where the increased responsibility is, and that's where the choice is that you have to make. But I think as long as you just stay true to yourself, I think you'll know what to do in this situation. I think you'll know what choice to make. And as long as you just stay true to yourself, then everything will be fine. You'll be rewarded, basically. Saturn does that. Like I said, as long as you're coming to things from a place of responsibility and maturity, then Saturn rewards us. It will reward you. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about this eclipse, basically. Going forward to November 12th, Pluto, again, for the final time this year, makes the exact conjunction to your natal Mercury, which is so interesting, especially right after that eclipse on the 8th. So, this is a lot more uplifting than the first two conjunctions Pluto made with your natal Mercury. Because I mean, this is so okay. So whenever a planet does this, where it crosses over a point and then it goes back over that point retrograde, and then it crosses that point a third and final time direct. The first time is usually kind of just like oblivious, and there's a lot happening. It's all new, and it's not really paying attention. There's that too much energy happening where you're not really paying attention, you're not really understanding things, and that's where the issue kind of first comes into play, whatever this issue is here. And then when the planet retrogrades over this point, that's where you have to step back and relook at things and gain that clarity. And then once the planet turns direct and crosses over that planet or that point for the third and final time, it's still coming back to those same issues, but in a way that's much more constructive, positive, easy, and forward moving. So that's what you're doing now. Whatever you were struggling with in January, and then um, again, I think you were focusing on it again. Let me go back to my notes here. Again in September. So there was this initial challenge in January, but then it was something that had to be kind of revisited or relooked at in September. Now you're finally making this really awesome progress moving forward, in mid November. and finally kind of, you finally get it now. You got it. You're so much more capable in these areas than you were at the beginning of the year, I think. And so much, like, you're almost kind of in the dark. You're in this kind of dark, heavy place in January, I think, compared to where you are now in November. So now you're much more capable. I think your mind is a lot stronger by this time. You've kind of dealt with this really heavy challenge, and you're on the other side of it now, coming out of it. So now you can proceed and make a lot of progress in these areas that you were struggling with earlier in the year. Hopefully that makes sense. I hope that's accurate. Okay, going forward to November 23rd. There's a new moon solar eclipse at 1 degree of Sagittarius, and this is also not a super major new moon for you. Um, it's in your second house though, so it could indicate a new beginning, new growth, uh, new energy regarding your finances, especially. That's the main thing that the second house kind of controls, or anything that supports you. So mostly finances, but anything that supports you, uh, monetarily, physically, emotionally. um, you could have kind of a new revitalization, new energy, new beginning in those areas. And again, it's not a super big aspect, but there's that potential there to some degree. Okay, November 27th. Mars turns retrograde at 20 degrees Gemini, and it's exactly, well, not exactly, but it's pretty close to exactly opposing your natal. Did I say Mercury? Mars? Did I say Mars? I think I said Mars. Let me start over. Mars, transiting Mars at 20 degrees Gemini turns retrograde, and it's pretty close to exactly opposing your natal moon, which is at 19 degrees Sagittarius. And 27th. Okay, so this is the first of multiple aspects of November, of late November going into December, between transiting Mars and your natal moon. So this again, I think, could be seen as a challenge. Kind of having these emotional ups and downs, these mood swings, being very sensitive toward other people. I think it's something that you might experience at this time. But and also maybe coming up against people that are maybe aggressive toward you, um, or competitive. But I think it could be it is a challenge. It is kind of like a fight in a way, a struggle through these upcoming aspects. But the fortune is on your side. The sun is in Sagittarius, which is the same sign as where your moon is, and then that's where Venus and Mercury are as well. And Mars is retrograde, so it is kind of a struggle, but I think you have the upper hand here, all in all. So you might experience those kind of emotional up and downs, um, but you still have the upper hand in some way. You have the power, kind of. But you may feel like people are kind of against you, or people are like fighting with you more, and you may be more sensitive to that as well. Okay, and then November 29th, transiting Mercury conjoins your moon, and this comes at the same time that transiting Mars is opposing your natal moon. Um, so you may be very expressive at this time. It may be very easy for you to articulate, um, from an intuitive or emotional platform or level, uh, to articulate your intuitions or your emotions. But like I said again, it's coming. Doing so is clashing with other people. Other people are like competitive or jealous or aggressive about this. Um, but you're more expressive anyway. And then this kind of evolves later in on December 1st when transiting Venus joins your moon. So like I said, you still have the upper hand. You're, I think these planets, Sun, Mercury, and Venus are agreeing with your natal moon, so you are feeling more expressive and more confident in your emotions. You know where you stand, and you're having this kind of flare there with it, with Venus conjunct your moon. It's like more pleasant. So so it's kind of a mixed bag. You're feeling secure in a lot of ways here, but at the same time, things are kind of up and down, and people are almost clashing against you with that Mars aspect. And I would say to be careful these last few days of November, going into the first week or so of December. Be very cautious toward um, like violent accidents. I would say to just be cautious. Don't be like too afraid or paranoid because that would just attract it. But just be cautious. Proceed with caution and moderation. But Mars, and especially Mars in oppositions like this, does that have that potential for like fights, or could be like fighting or arguing with other people, or getting into some kind of accident, or even just Mars has to do with like cuts. So like you could accidentally cut yourself at this time or something. So I would just say, be cautious and just be you. Basically, these inner planets are agreeing with your moon, so there's like you're still. It's hard to explain because you're in your element during this whole time. It's like even though you might feel like people are being aggressive and you're extra sensitive to this and you might be up and down, it's like you're still in your element during all of this. You still feel fine at a core level. It's just kind of this exterior bullshit, if you will, that is going on. So that's what I would say. That applies to this whole general time period, the last few days of November and the first week of December. But let's look more specifically here. We do have a full moon, December 7th through 8th, and this is lighting up um, this same area. The full moon will be at 16 degrees Gemini. So it's pretty close to opposing your natal moon at 19 degrees Sagittarius. So again, it kind of just lights up. It's almost like it builds up. So November 26th or 7th through the first week of December, it's like there's that build up of that tension and edginess and aggression from other people. But it kind of reaches a finale or a climax on December 7th and 8th. And this too could be, I'd really watch out for aggression or fights or accidents. Um, but you still have the sun on your side. Sun is conjunct your moon, and gosh, I don't know. You could just have some weird interactions with other people at this time, and this whole thing could be feel kind of fated or karmic to you because it is near your nodal axis as well. So you could, I think, you could learn a lot from this whole experience. But at the same time, it'd be wise to just have caution through this little episode here. December 11th, transiting Sun conjoins your natal moon. So I think this is kind of the final aspect um, of this little mini saga here. Um, and by this time, Mercury and Venus have already moved on. They're in Capricorn, and even Mars has moved on. It's retrograde at 14 degrees Gemini, so it's a few degrees away from making that opposition with your moon. It's not exact anymore. So by December 11th, things have mellowed out a little bit, and I think you get this kind of newfound clarity and sense of peace and confidence on the 11th with Sun conjoining your moon. You feel more natural. You feel like a relief, like there's this weight that's lifted, and this kind of, to be honest, it was a weird dynamic. First week of December, especially. So I think this is evolving in a much more preferable way for you. Starting on the 11th, things are more clear, and more natural and more normal for you after the 11th. Going to December 20th. Transiting Mercury at 18 degrees conjoins that point in your chart with your Uranus, Neptune, and your IC. Um, so that again, this happens every year. It just indicate that you're focusing more on your foundations, maybe your past or your beliefs more, um, your eccentricities. That's kind of just generally where your thoughts are. Going forward to the 23rd, new moon at 1 degree of Capricorn is, it's a new beginning for you being a Capricorn yourself. So that is kind of important. But it's far away from your Capricorn placements. So, it's at the very beginning of Capricorn here. Um, so maybe potentially a new beginning for you, nothing super major. It is in the third house, so maybe new activity or new developments with other people, friendships, neighbors, connections, etc. Maybe you're more busy with these types of things at this time. December 24th, transiting Venus conjoins that, 18 degrees Capricorn, so it conjoins your Uranus, Neptune, IC at this general time here. Um, so this would indicate your home life is positive at this time. It's, there's abundance there, generally speaking, so that's good. And that's really nice to have right before Christmas as well, if you celebrate Christmas. I don't know if you do. Going forward to December 28th, Mercury turns retrograde at 24 degrees Capricorn. So it's a little bit of an echo of last December, but I don't think it's as heavy. I think December 2021 going into January 2022 was, very very positive in the sense it was constructive, but I think there's a lot going on. But I think it was more heavy than the end of 2022 is. Um, Mercury does turn retrograde and it's close to your natal Mercury, so this could really indicate an opportunity to rethink over things, to re-examine things, and reflect on things. To have that period of decreased physical activity and increased, subconscious or non-physical activity. That would start on December 28th, but I don't think it's too heavy or too major. I think it's just more natural to you. It's almost like I don't know. It's almost like the seasons. Like this phase is just good for kind of reflecting and reorganizing your thoughts and subconscious. So yeah, this looks a lot easier with the chart on the end of this month than it was a year ago. But it is a little bit similar. It's almost like an echo. And the last aspect I wanted to talk about in this video is actually in January of 2023, but it just was definitely noticeable. I thought I should mention it. There's a full moon at 16 degrees Cancer, and let's see here. It makes an opposition with Mercury at 17 degrees Capricorn. Um, Here we go, right here. 16. Okay, so it really lights up, especially your IC midheaven axis with the full moon conjunct your midheaven. Pretty close. So, and then, wow, okay, yeah, that is interesting. And then Mercury retrograde is by your IC. So I think this would, sorry, I'm going back and forth, but I'm trying to interpret this here. So this would indicate to me that you've maybe been reflecting on things, especially on a core, like fundamental level, and it ends up kind of affecting your work. But I think it's in a positive way here that the full moon is by your midheaven, so you're very, very noticeable, and the focus is on you at your workplace at this time here on January 6th. You're almost like a celebrity just like on this day. Like everyone notices you, and I think recent changes in how you kind of have been processing things and thinking and re-examining things is feeding into this, people noticing you at work. So that's kind of a weird dynamic. It's hard to describe, but I think this would be really excellent for I don't know, making a positive change at work or gaining that attention, gaining that like respect maybe. Um, Also for some kind of culmination or major project at work or some kind of event with your workplace, something of that nature. Okay, so that was pretty long. Uh, and it was a bit rambly. Hopefully, I hope this was important or sorry, important. I hope the information I provided was accurate. Please let me know maybe throughout the year if, what is accurate and what isn't. I'm still working at refining this. Uh, but but yeah, definitely interesting. It's definitely an interesting year for you. Um, I think the main thing I notice is I think you're growing a lot. And there's a lot of challenges, but it's not super dark. I don't think this year would be depressing for you by any means. I think there's a lot of challenges, but you are I almost feel like you feed off of these challenges. It's like you're growing so much. You're becoming so much stronger, more independent, and more powerful even. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting time in all of our lives, but definitely your life here. Hopefully that's accurate. Let me know. But thanks for watching. See you later.